Mr. Chairman, it is 6:01 p.m. and we are live.
My blue light is not on. Okay, I guess it is live. All right. In that case, it is 6:01, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Wednesday, January 12th. And this is the meeting of the Lake Worth Beach Historic Resources Preservation Board. And Secretary, could we get a roll call?
Judy Fox, I see you.
Here.
Yeah, and we hear you.
Chip
Can you
Guthrie,
hear me? How about that?
Bill Feldkamp.
Here.
I think Ricky is momentarily will be on. Steve Pickett.
Here.
And Bob Dorenzo.
Here.
And as I said, we're waiting for Ricky. He'll be with us shortly, I'm sure.
Yes, he's up in North Carolina somewhere. All right. Can we all rise and pledge allegiance?
I can't get up. I'm sorry, guys.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Sitta, are there any additions, deletions, or reordering?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is an additional conceptual review. We sent an email out today with the materials. This item is an addition to a property. Let me get the address for you. And 329 North L Street. And this is something that could be approved administratively, but the applicant would like to come back for a historic preservation tax exemption. And so we're bringing them this as conceptual review to make sure you're comfortable with the proposed project.
All right. So that will be item B under new business.
It will be actually, yes, be under new business. Yes.
Alrighty. We have a few minutes to be approved. Does someone want to make a motion to approve the November 17th minutes? By Steve Pickett, seconded by.
Second.
Okay. Seconded by Robert Dorenzo. All in favor, aye. Aye. Unanimous. And would someone like to make a motion to approve the December 15th regular meeting minutes?
I move to approve the
Okay, seconded by Mr. Dorenzo again. Motion made by Mr. Pickett. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, do we have any staff and applicants to be sworn in?
We do, Mr. Chairman. Let me just promote everybody. I don't believe we need to, for the folks that are here for conceptual review, because they're not testifying as a case, they don't have to be,
correct.
they don't need to be sworn in. So Fatin and Juan, if you could please turn on your camera and unmute, Sherry will swear you in. Was there anyone else with you?
No.
On your, okay, just
Hello?
the two of you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, Juan. Can you turn on your camera?
I tried to, I just did. Oh, sorry, here it is. Okay, I'm in.
There he is. All right.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we have proof of publication. We apparently have no withdrawals or postponements. This may be a rather quick meeting. Board disclosures, any disclosures on? this
Nothing.
one's? I have none, and.
I have nothing.
Okay. Judith Fox, no.
Nothing.
Okay. All right, well then let's get into item A of unfinished business. Certificate of appropriateness for 226 North K Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, this is project came before you as a conceptual review in November, then for public hearing in December, and now it's back. You gave some feedback at the last meeting. Here's the general project location. You can see here on the aerial, and then moving on, here's the proposed quadruplex on North K Street. And then again, here are the revised elevation options. One of the comments that was made at the previous meeting was that you wanted to increase the window size. The applicant has let us know that they have a preference for option B. The discussion with them was that option B may require them to reduce interior living space to meet the setback requirements because they have the full wall coming forward for the decorative element there. Staff is concerned that that should be within its front setback because it's not an awning or anything. It's an unusual application. So the applicant has agreed, and that is their preference is option B. But you can see there are 3 options for you to take a look at. I'll take you through them. Again, the recommendation is that's the 3 options. And just to note that if option B is selected, a conditional approval to ensure compliance with the setback requirements would be required. Here is the rendering for option A with the larger windows. Here is option B. And here is option C.
B looks good.
Pardon?
B looks good.
Yeah.
Can you go back to B? I like the offset windows, because when first we wanted windows, I thought it was like a small bathroom window or something like that, so these larger offset windows, I think.
Now you say that encroaches in the setback, having that little bit of wall?
Yeah, so it just, because the front building line is the setback, it's not really a wall, but it's something we can't define because it's all the way around. And the closest thing it is really in our code is a wall. It's a decorative element, but it's a wall. So it's not an awning, it's not a whatever. So when I spoke to Fatin, she said that this is the applicant's preferred design and that they were willing to sacrifice 2 feet of interior space. So they would just need to, this is also in for, let me take this back. So this is in for you for COA application, but this is because it is more than a single family, 2-family home. It is also in for a minor site plan amendment for zoning. So if you approved option B with the condition, they would submit a revision to their minor site plan amendment that's reviewed by staff to kind of push the whole thing back, shrink the footprint a little bit by 2 feet to make it meet the setbacks. And they are okay with that.
If that was considered a decorative treatment as opposed to a wall,
We don't have the decorative treatments that are allowed to go into the setback are expressly spelled out.
or
Yes, they're awnings or, yeah, so it's all stated in the code what can extend, and this is not really anticipated, so it's really closest to a wall, so it really can't extend. So,
So, having the presentation.
so this is A, this is B, this is C. Do you guys want to look at anyone else? I mean, staff is recommending approval of this. This is, I mean, I don't really have a super formal presentation because we've done it twice now, so it's just really, it's, you all have this evening have to select one of the 3, and then there's the staff recommended conditions.
I have a question. So if we went with A, those decorative features that we're going to call walls, they do not protrude into the setback?
So these are more like what we would consider a traditional window awning or something. We can kind of, but when it's, look, it's the best we could do was, I mean, we this is about all we can stretch with option A. Option B, because you have to understand is whatever position we take, we have to take a position for all future development. So this is not just about this project. This is about every other project.
You let them do it.
You know, we want to be very consistent. So this looks more like a traditional awning. It functions more like that. But if you have a full 360 extension of the building forward, that's depending on, that can be very gray. And
So that
so,
wall that framed it sticks out 2 feet.
I don't have it in front of me. Fun, could you unmute? Is that 2 feet or is it like 18
That's
inches?
18 inches.
That's what-
It was, and it could be 2 inches. We could also reduce it down to like a 6 inch, like a smaller outcropping as well. So we could do a few things to it, basically make it work with the setback.
Option C has the least penetration. Well,
Yes.
it has penetration, but it has the least encroachment.
Yes, absolutely. Mhm.
And so option C was the least preferred by the applicant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they prefer A and then B and then option C the least. But these are all three for you to discuss.
Mhm.
I would like to say though, if I could, are you guys hearing me? Hello?
Yeah, we just.
Okay, yeah, actually, strangely enough, I had spoken to a client and he warmed up to option C quite a bit too. So I think he'd be happy with it. He really didn't, going back the 18 inches or 24 inches, I don't think at the end he was feeling a little heart struck with it, but yeah, option C would be fine as well.
I think I spoke to William, he thought that option A had the most residential feel. Option B, you know, again, they're all have something to them. So it's really just, again, staff is recommending approval, so it's just which.
I have a couple of small items. First off, this is in A and C, your floor slab comes forward. And you've told us that it's going to be a concrete floor slab, so that works fine. You're making a little extra work for yourselves by having the canopy over the front door and the canopy over the sliders down at 8 feet rather than up at 10. That's your decision, that's fine, but you're making a little extra work for yourself.
Okay.
My preference would be either A or C rather than B.
Okay.
And either of those, A or C, is fine with me. I would like, if we get into, if we're heading that direction, the conditions, I would like to, just because you have several different window types here, you've got casement windows, if I'm not mistaken, on the front facade, on the side or on the south side. You have double hungs on the north side, and then you have some, I guess these 4 windows are fixed. So in terms of shadows, you're showing the shadows from the steel or from the concrete pins. But could we perhaps change the conditions to require a minimum of, let's say, 4 inches to the glass line, just to make sure that the glazing is set back and that we get some kind of a.
That would be,
Yes, you were going to say something?
yeah, I think we could be amenable to that to flush in the glass.
So that item 3, condition number 3 would be a minimum of 4 inches to the glazing, to the plane of the glass.
Yeah, it would give it depth, I believe.
Yeah, anything more would be even better because you'd have more of a shadow line. But if we could go for that on number 3. And then I don't know how other folks feel about options A.
Well, they're all 3 of them are unique. Is it a point where we could? I'm comfortable with any of it, really. I mean, if push comes to shove. I kind of like being C, but we could do that all the way around the line. Could we leave it to where the person spending all the money on the end of the check pick one? I mean, staff's okay with
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. So
You
it's,
know, I'd like to throw it back to the owner of the property.
Juan, did you say the owner has preference?
He didn't, he warmed up at first. He said, today he spoke and he said, I was thinking about C, and it really was quite nice as well. Because before he said, oh, it looks a little more plain and whatever. And then he said, you know what, it actually was interesting. I think the big issue was even losing a little bit from the inside. They worked so hard to get the floor plan just right. He didn't want to really get any space out of the interior. That's what it was.
Good for him.
So A and C, he's fine with both.
I like C best, but how do other people? Mr. Pickett.
I actually dislike the, but, A and C, I do like, that was actually, the even more difficult thinking, sort of like a merger between A and C, and throw a color into the A, but, A and C are fun.
so if you all discuss that you are comfortable with either A or C, then the approval would be to make a motion to approve the project with either the front facade A or C, with the modification to the condition number 3, so that the windows shall be recessed a minimum of 4 inches.
Can we hear from Judy Fox?
I kind of missed out on last meeting, but I think all 3 of them are nice. I think 3 has less stuff going on. It's more plain and looks like a building.
So you prefer C over A, or you either A or C?
They don't, it's no difference.
Okay. Well, then it seems like we're open to either A or C.
Okay.
And just a matter of changing the verbiage a little bit on
Number 3.
on condition number 3.
Right, so I pulled up the motion if somebody's ready to make
Got
a motion. Yeah,
I move to approve HRPB project number 21-01400023 with staff recommendation conditions for a certification of appropriateness COA for the construction of a new plus 4,125 square foot multifamily structure with 4 units on lots 12 and 13 of block 48 at 226 North K Street, based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulation and historic preservation requirements, with the board agreeing on either A or C as presented by staff this evening.
right, with the modification.
The modification to number 3 in the conditional approval of the windows shall be recessed a minimum of 4 inches in the wall and shall not be installed flush with the exterior wall.
Mr. Chairman, before we take a vote on that motion, we forgot to read the public comment.
I'm so sorry, is that why you were waving?
Yeah.
All right.
And it seems to be all good. I have a total of 5.
Oh, all right.
So, and 2 of these were received last month after the meeting, and the first one will be from Kevin Fernandez at 202 Ocean Breeze. And he's in support of the proposed project. At that point, he believes this type of development is beneficial for the surrounding area as it provides residents with more diverse options when it comes to living accommodations. The project is a fresh, modern addition to Lake Worth while still respecting the scale, proportions, and overall aesthetic of the existing neighborhood. Some of the main components that make this an attractive project for the area include utilizing the alley for parking and providing a green buffer between the sidewalk and the building, allowing pedestrians to walk along the sidewalk without watching for cars backing into the street. Having private outdoor spaces for units and dedicated site bike racks, natural light into the units from non-street facing facades. The second one is from the owner of Paradiso Restaurant. And he said he's the owner, located just 2 blocks from the project. And when he saw, cut off on the side, as soon as he saw the project, he knew it was the right addition for the community in Lake Worth Beach. The facades are dynamic and still keep a modern, mid-century modern feel. The building looks much like a much better version of the other 4-unit buildings that surround it, and it really shines as a project. The parking is innovative in the back, which does not cause parking problems on the street. And the additional landscape is also a very nice touch in the front. Having gardens for each unit on the ground floor is very nice with shade trees to match. The 2-story design with open but shaded windows are open but private at the same time, which is a great detail. Many great ideas in design. This is an outstanding project and I look forward to seeing it built. Comment number 3 comes from Thomas Shear at 2502 North Dixie. And he says he's known the developer, David Kislin, and has worked with him in a lending capacity for 4 years. I helped him with the acquisition of 2 other multifamily buildings in Lake Worth Beach, which were thoughtfully rehabbed in regards to the surrounding neighborhood and historic district of Lake Worth Beach. He does not take any shortcuts and he provides an end product that fellow residents can be proud of. He does this while providing an affordable product to the residents of the community. I have no doubt that he will take the same care and consideration into this project. The next one is from, and I know I'm not going to say the name correctly, Joseph Laliave, 604 Lake Ave. And he said he wanted to express his support for Mr. Kislin and JEL Development. He's been a tenant since 2021 and a first-time minority business owner, and he's witnessed firsthand his support for the development of the Lake Worth community. He's the owner of Canna Bar and Grill. And lastly, from Wes Blackman, he said he reviewed the video from the December meeting and the items submitted by the applicant in response to the board's concerns that are presented here tonight. I think the larger windows on the western facade, the elevation facing the street are a great improvement over what was shown previously. I think the building's design can be classified as a modern piece of architecture that offers geometric interest to an otherwise plain building. It compares well with other multifamily buildings in the area known as catwalk apartments that were built in the 60s and 70s. In fact, it outshines them in terms of functionality and modern amenities. Particularly nice are the interior staircases that use natural light for 3 of the 4 units. The project takes advantage of the remaining yard area for patio and enjoyment of the subtropical environment. No variances are required, and this is a type of multi-unit project that we need as vacant lot infill redevelopment in the near downtown area of the city. Please follow staff recommendation of approval with conditions. And that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Is there any more discussion? We have a motion on the table. Can we get a second for that motion? Second by Mr. Guthrie. All in favor, aye. 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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Compton. You've done
Thank you very much for all your help.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
sir. Good job. And
Thank you.
wonderful. Okay, now we have a conceptual report, 1917 South Palm Way.
Mr. Chairman, just give me a moment and I will pull up the plans. This particular plan set for 1017 was in your packet. I'm going to share. This is a proposed new construction, and Denise Hrpb is the architect. She is online, so I will let her present the proposed single-family structure. This is in the South Palm Park Historic District. Denise, are you on?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Did you want to turn on your video or you?
Yeah, sure. Hold on one second.
It's okay, Denise, you can just get going.
It's not allowing me to show video for some reason.
Weird.
This property online does not say that it's a contributing structure. Just a minute, I think I can start the video.
Well, Denise, that structure, there was a structure on there, but I think that one was identified for, was this the one that was identified for demolition already and that was noticed to the board?
The existing, yes, but the property, it's that, there was confusion because the property said it wasn't contributing. So when we originally designed these plans and these elevations, we designed it with the thought that this is not a contributing structure. And that's why we wanted to come in front of the board with what we had conceptually designed initially to see if there are any comments. Excuse me. This is a ranch style, is what it, the most, the style of this home we see as an adaptation to the ranch style. But like I said before, the initial design was not, we weren't conforming to the historic district in terms of a contributing structure. So that's why we wanted to come in front of the board to see what the initial thoughts were on the design that we came up with initially. And we're open to suggestions for, adapting this home better to the historic district.
Who wants to start?
I mean, as far as the actual design standing, I think it's a pretty nice design. It's like it's well. But comparing it with the streetscape and looking at the neighborhood that it will be going into, the scale of it is, I think, a lot larger than that. I did see some, some other buildings around that are 2-story, and there's a couple of multiplexes and that kind of thing, but immediately around it, it's surrounded by cottage homes. And so to have this huge, in comparison, huge house in the middle of that block, it's a concern for me.
I have to say, I agree completely. This house looks like it would fit in very nicely on Route 7 or whatever it is. 441, sort of typical of what you'd find out there. I agree, it's in a row of all single-family homes. The only 2-family around or 2-story around, I think, is the Spanish one we go across the street. And it's a wide street, so you don't see that at the same time as you can see this one. I guess, is this home for the owner of the property next door to the south?
Is this I'm sorry, what was the question, Mr. Chairman? That this was.
He's I believe 2 doors down.
Is 2 doors down, the owner, okay. I think the facade is ponderous, is the word that comes to mind. It's heavy, the eaves are heavy. The roof is what, 5 and 12 or something? It's a pretty steep roof. Certainly everybody wants to have, I don't think it has 10-foot ceilings. I think it's got 9-foot, 9'6" ceilings. So, it's going to be tall. I wish there were a way on the front facade, since the houses to the right and left of it are very horizontal with a sort of almost a knife edge gable, or overhang in the front. I wish this could have some kind of the idea of a single-story porch in front. I know that the garage is there and so on. But if it could have a kind of a gutter line, an eave line, horizontal at the first floor level to pick up what the neighboring houses have, it would be an improvement. And my other comment is that the windows styles, I counted, I can't remember what I came up with. A very large number of different windows. They could be simplified. But this is what people are wanting nowadays. So I don't know. I would like it to fit better in with those neighbors that are longer and lower, and perhaps the second floor could be de-emphasized somewhat. That's my comment.
The Mr. Pickett made a comment about seeing it as a streetscape. I think is going to be a real, number one, we're going to be dealing with the first floor elevation. It's going to be required to bring that up to the flood level, which as we recall, most recent one we approved in the same neighborhood over on the water. It negated him from going to the second story because single story is up to the maximum height limit. And so we see this in relationship to the ground surface, in relationship to the next door neighbor. See this house in there.
You're uphill.
You're definitely gonna be able to go. And right now it's a depressed area. So
Right.
the change is gonna be dramatic on it. The style of the house, it's a preference, thing, and they wanted to take advantage of the view from the second floor. I believe that's gonna be a bedroom upstairs. There's actually a bedroom upstairs and a bedroom downstairs with a view looking out the front, which is our view on the hallway. As a matter of fact, I'm sure we'll probably be able to see intercoastal from that bedroom, from the top windows of there. So the windows don't, see what you're saying about, the different styles of windows. But, and then it really doesn't delineate what kind of roof we're talking about. Is that going to be a barrel tile roof or?
Tile, metal.
Denise, do you know that, have you selected a roof material yet?
The client was wanting some type of tile roof. We have not selected the material.
Have you done any type of a streetscape on this yet to see what the flood level?
We have not done a streetscape yet. That would be our next step, is to develop these plans further for the COA.
Do you know what the elevation of the lot is above sea level?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think we have an elevation survey yet, but I might be mistaken.
Up there.
I can pull
Mr.
that up.
Guthrie is saying that the first floor may need to be elevated by 2 or 3 feet.
Well, and then that takes the whole project up. What is the maximum height? 30 feet?
Yeah, but the height is measured from the base flood elevation to the top of the structure. So
Yeah.
yes, so it
You're just
can,
moving the house though.
yeah, because over time that's gonna, as things are gonna be elevated over time, whether they're raised or modified. I mean, and that's part of why the base flood elevation variance is in the toolbox of the historic preservation districts. Is there are some structures that people may not want to choose, you may want to add an addition, but they may not want to choose to raise that. And because FEMA is very strict about requiring the raising of that.
What is the setback going to be from the front of the
So we don't have a site plan, but the setback would have to be at least 20 feet.
20-foot setback? It'd be interesting to see how it sits on the lot. I don't know that, I mean, I don't have a problem with the design of the house. That's all individual, but how it's going to look on the lot. I believe it looks, it does resemble, if you want to resemble, it's closer resembling the house on to the north.
Well, just so obviously I'm hearing massing and I'm hearing some comments about architecture. So just keep in mind, like the comments related need to be contextual to the requirements for new construction, which is that new construction should reflect either a common architectural style in the district or a defined architectural style. And there's some other guidance in the design guidelines. I can pull those up and we can look at them if you want to.
They're calling it ranch.
Yeah, well, I call it a ranch. It's 2 stories.
Yeah, most of your neighbors are what, 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s ranch styles.
I'm one of the.
Oh, okay. And they're simpler. They have a horizontal feel to them, which I think you could do if you got more horizontality to that front elevation. I understand you want balconies on the second floor, that's fine. But something to give more horizontal, less broken up feel to it. The whole concept, Ms. Hrpb, is to fit in with the neighborhood. So as Aaron has said. Does the applicant
Is
have
this
any,
on the west side of the street or the east side of the street?
West side.
West side. So it's not on the water side.
No, and then also, I think it's important to understand that behind this structure is the backside of Federal Highway, which is overrun with 2- and 3-story apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Right there. So if you take it into context, looking at the whole area, we do have a lot of 2-story homes interspersed in with single-story homes. I'm trying to think of on my block, which I'm about 4 blocks further north. On my side, I'm on the same side of the street, and there's 1 2-story house, and the rest of them are cottages. Across the street, there's 2 2-story houses. The rest are all single-story. On every block, there's probably, I would say, 1 or 2 2-story structures within the block. So, and they fit in, the type of neighborhood we are. It's pretty well. I don't necessarily have a problem with the 2-story home.
I don't think any of us have a problem charging with the 2-story. It's just that creating more horizontality to it. And of course, the higher the building is elevated, the more overbearing that roof is going to be.
It's going to show up when you do that streetscape.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That, to the architect, that might be your next job, is to do that streetscape and see how that feels.
Aaron was going to show us the styles of it.
Yeah. So this is that says the design guidelines document provides for 10 primary styles as well as notable styles for the city. And new construction defined as a new structure within a historic district should be planned so it's compatible with neighboring structures, and then adhere to certain principles and that are vital to the health and longevity of the district. Buildings and homes were built over time and in different styles, basically, I'm surmising here. And it says that it basically calls on architecture to be authentic to a style. And new construction within the district should take the primary styles into consideration when contemplating the design of the new building. And then, of course, while it is understood that new buildings will not be built exactly the same as their historic neighbors, there should be a conscious effort to be compatible with and take inspiration from the historic fabric. So that's kind of that. It talks about streetscaping, massing, placement, materials and design.
Aaron, perhaps you could tell the architect how to get to that catalog that you are referencing there.
Absolutely. So I'll follow up with Denise. We've talked about the historic preservation design lines, but I'll make sure she has the page numbers in the document.
How does this square with some recent styles that we have approved as a board, mainly over on the coastal, the one that's supposed to be built with three-dimensional printing technology, and then the one that most recently came up where it's going to be 4 to 5. That one had quite different designs than anything else in there. Totally.
I think the biggest direction when I read from this is that the architectural design should be true to a distinct architectural style.
Yeah.
And then because there's a lot of neighborhoods, especially in the city, where you'll see, very modern, you'll see 80s, you'll see 20s, you'll see 50s, so we kind of have a patchwork of styles in most of our districts. We don't have very homogenized districts just because of our development pattern. So I think you have a little more flexibility in terms of style overall, but that the design guidelines do call for for styles to be true to a architectural style.
But when you see this, what do you I don't see ranch. When she said ranch, I was a little surprised. What do you see as this style we call developer?
So I know William is on if he wants to speak to that a little bit more as an architect. I know that, so I would just say, I think that you have made some valid points as maybe kind of leaning in more to the ranch if they're embracing it, embracing the horizontality of the design.
Okay. William Waters, do you have comments?
Pardon my voice, but I'm trying to get over COVID. But I was a little surprised that it was described as a ranch. The points that you brought up about it being horizontal and along linear massing elements is more in line with a ranch style house. The massing that's shown is kind of caught in the middle. If it had a lot more glazing and maybe a lower pitched roof or a flat roof, it could probably fall into modern or contemporary style. But it's lost between the two right now. And I believe the direction is you've articulated would help guide it into the more ranch vocabulary, or possibly Ms. Hrpb and her client might want to go more into the contemporary side of things. But they should go in one or other direction if they want to keep the house essentially in the same massing and bulk that it is right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else, or shall we move on to our next conceptual review?
Denise, did you have any questions? Because I know you were going to go back and finalize design and bring it forward.
Yes, I do have a question with them. You know, if we go towards the modern contemporary, what would be your suggestions or advice to move along in that direction? Would you have any suggestions?
I could see a flat roof, deco, modern, streamlined version. Personally,
when you do that streetscape and it brings that up that much higher, that flat roof becomes more of an option. And then it brings it more true. When William was describing it, I don't know why, you know, when everybody else was describing it, when William was describing it, he was talking about spot, but it looks like he took a modern structure and stuck the hidden roof on top of it. Almost. No, I mean, just so I see what he's writing between two different styles there. And yeah, glazing and everything else looks fine, but when you throw that roof on there, maybe I thought it was just because it was plain, it didn't show any style to the roof, any particular style to the roof. But that was what the problem is. But when William says, yes, you're in between two different styles, go with one or go with the other. Makes sense.
I think the flat roof would help with the massing. I think I think you all are onto something there, because it will be raised. It will be raised for the base flood elevation, and then it is a two-story structure, and the bulk of the structures on the street are one story. So.
Yeah. And again, people are wanting the higher ceilings, so it does bring the height of everything up. So,
Ms. Fox, any comments?
Well, just if the flood elevation is higher and this is tall, I mean, that's a lot of height on that streetscape, I would think. I mean, don't they have to go up 7 feet and then another 2 feet?
Well, they don't have to go up 7 feet. I mean, it will just depend on the elevation, like the base flood elevation.
Well, they don't know what that elevation is yet, from what I heard.
I'm not sure what the elevation of the current site is, but I'm looking online, the base flood elevation is 9 feet here at this property.
Do we require 9? Or do we require
We have a 1 foot freeboard height. So if the base FEMA requirement is 9, then ours might be 10, but we'll clarify that with the building official.
Would we be able to go for a variance if is contributing?
No, not for new construction.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a struggle, especially in our districts as we go forward. And, you know, again, this is kind of why we've talked about that tool of that base flood elevation for our districts, because, you know, it's just something that is sea level rise is coming. There's shifting, you know, there's a shifting flood line. And
well, if I might interrupt, Aaron, we should really only focus on that exemption being for contributing historic properties and not for new construction.
Yes. Yeah, so that's kind of what we talked about is just like, that's what's gonna kind of slow that new structures as they come in are going to raise, they have to go up.
Right.
There's no choice, so.
They're also a bit like store drainage too.
All right. Is that it for comments? Ms. Craig, thank you very much for showing us your thoughts. And we look forward to seeing you in a month or two.
And thank you for all of your feedback.
Mhm. All right, now shall we go to 329?
Can I say something? Hello?
Nestor?
Yes.
Nestor is the owner.
Oh, hold on a second, Denise, you're not on mute.
Yeah, Nestor would like to speak.
Oh, there you go.
Good evening, everyone. So, just to clarify, one of the recommendations is to have a flat roof. That's what was recommended.
Oh, I'm sorry, sorry, I didn't. Nestor, are you speaking, you're the applicant for when Denise was representing you, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had moved on from that item. Mr. Chairman, did you want to let him ask a question?
I think we've covered it. You might want to listen to the YouTube version of the meeting.
Yeah. So Nestor, just get with Denise and we can talk with you after the meeting as well. Okay.
All right.
All right. Let me go ahead and I promoted the other folks. Just give me a minute and I will open up those plans. Right, let me make sure everybody's. Justin, I'm trying to promote you to be a panelist. When you get that notification, you need to say okay so you can turn on your video and talk. Okay, so the applicant is Mr. Justin Pace. Looks like he's popped over. This is a single family home located on 329 North L Street. What's kind of interesting about it, and you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit here, is there's an existing nonconformity of the structure because of how close it's built to the alley. It goes all the way and the eaves actually overhang the property line a little bit. So some of what the applicant was working on and developing their plans have to address that nonconformity cannot be expanded upon. So you can see here that roof line of that garage piece hasn't been modified, but this existing portion, which can't change, has been retained. And then this is in another addition here. So the applicant is just looking for some guidance. We sent an email out today. Some of the initial guidance we gave to the applicant was that that there needs to be a little bit more distinguishability between the historic one-bedroom mid-century structure and mid-century masonry structure, and then the proposed additions. You can see here's the floor plan. Here's the existing floor plan with the one bedroom, and then this makes it into more of a family home with a 3-2. And there's the floor plan as a whole. You can see that there. Pull it down for you a little bit. Oh, sorry. This thing's a little unwieldy. And you can see again, here's the garage, the existing bedroom, living room, kitchen, and then the new addition. Here is the existing structure and the elevations. pull that out for you. And then the proposed front elevation. So some of the details the applicant is proposing to retain would be to retain the clamshell shutters and the brick detail on the bottom of the windows, the sill of the windows, and then to differentiate by not creating that same brick detail on the addition, and then and so this is what they've proposed. We've provided some additional feedback to them. We emailed you that feedback a little bit. And then I'm going to turn this over to Justin. Justin, did you want to add anything? He is proposing to come in for the work, once the work is complete, to request a historic preservation tax exemption for the addition. So he's looking for some additional guidance. While an addition can be approved administratively, the tax exemption the scope of work has to be approved by you all. So that's why we're asking him to come here and get some feedback to make sure you're comfortable with the addition as proposed. Like I said, staff wants a little bit more differentiation between the existing structure and the addition, and maybe if you all could provide some guidance to that effect of what you would be looking for, that would be where you would be comfortable.
Chairman, this is William Waters again. It's going to be a little bit difficult to this virtual environment to explain some of the feedback that we've given them, but I've been on the phone with them twice, and we've talked about a simplified approach to provide a greater distinction between, or differentiation between, the existing home and the additions. And we'll start with the garage area. Because it encroaches into the alley with the eave, I talked to them about doing what's called a Flemish rake beam gable on that end, where the new roof would just die into that and it would not have to be added upon. So that little addition that's sort of ending 3/4 of the way across the garage door would not have to be done. One of the challenges with the garage is that getting out of the existing house and going into the garage, there is not headroom height for a standard door. So they wanted to add some height into the garage to be able to get into it. If we do a standard truss where the pitch runs from the front to the back, that would be the gable dying into this sort of Flemish rake beam. They can have sort of a little bit of a cathedral ceiling in the garage and have that room height. And then that new roof would actually sit underneath the existing eave of the main house. And then on the opposite side, I've talked to them about lowering the addition by 6 inches to a foot with 2 steps down into it, since the building is actually built up off the grade quite a bit, and have that new addition have the same type of Flemish rake beam gable on its end as the garage would have, and its roof would tuck underneath the existing roof as well. The one area where there's a challenge is they would like to add some height to the living room area, and extending the hip of the existing house would allow them to do that. And my proposal of lowering the addition and having it tie into the existing hip might present them a little bit of an air conditioning challenge, as well as being able to lift this whole ceiling of the living room. But that's the direction that we've given them to help differentiate the two changes more so from the existing contributing property. And that's kind of where we left it. The applicant was open to the suggestions that I provided, but I did, as Aaron mentioned, we did want to get some feedback from you all before they went too far down the road, so they would have still the ability to apply for the historic ad valorem tax exemption if they so desired once they get their plans finalized.
Right, and I'm on here. This is Justin Pace, and sorry, I just unmuted myself. But correct, everything William said is correct. We're willing to work with the city and you all in to get the right design on this. But when we started out originally, in our minds we were trying to put an addition on this house and really make it look like it was part of the original house. And I understand now that that's not the approach to this. We need to make the addition look different. So that's where we're trying to figure out what gives it enough difference look from old to new. So I appreciate any of your all's feedback, and we've been at this quite a while. Would love to get going on her.
Now, the current house has a stucco finish, does it?
Yes, sir.
And the addition would have likewise. the
It would
same
match,
stucco finish.
as of now, it would match the existing, correct?
The end windows that face the side street, or the main street, look a bit small. If they are going to be on the street facade. Two bedroom windows, I guess. Be nice to have them a little higher. I understand that William is trying to go by the Secretary of the Interior standards that additions should show some difference from the original.
It is in our design guidelines as well.
Yeah,
So
certainly Palm Beach is just the opposite.
Yeah, and again, that was our thought too. Like, how cool would it be just to make it look, take a 1-bedroom house, make it a 3-bedroom family house, and make it look all like it was originally done that way.
So the design guidelines say that the addition should be complementary but distinguishable. So I think we've provided them direction where how, William's given them direction on how to make it distinguishable. And we want to see, are you on board with that direction, or do you have a different viewpoint? Because again, he was going to come back for a tax exemption application. We wanted to make sure that you all are comfortable that it's consistent with the guidelines and that you feel supportive of that.
Again, I want to, if I may, I'm a little confused with this. Recently, in the same vein, in South Palm Park, we had a structure that people wanted to maintain the same. It was flood
1020.
And there was no differentiation between the front part of the house and the back part. There was no, in other words, they extended the same ranch style. And I thought that this was never brought up with that. And when it comes to granting historic, if we're taking the historic portion of this structure and then just making more of it in the same style and making it look as though it is part of the historic structure, I don't see that as being a. So where's the differentiate? Why is it the same? Or why was that okay to do the ranch style and complete that in the same style?
It's not that it can't be in the same architectural style. This is still in the same architectural style. It just has to be differentiated so you can identify where the old and new began.
Different texture of the
It
stucco.
could be a different texture of
color.
stucco. It could be that the addition is set back and subordinate, and that's what William was talking about. It's still the same style, but lowering the roof down so the roof ties in so you can see that there is an old and a new.
But did we do that on 1020? Is what I'm saying.
No, we don't.
So
that house, it was a house that was kind of built in a bunch of different segments anyway. So it's sort of, wasn't that the one that was sort of had a bunch of additions to it already?
We have
Been
one.
added on
one
a couple of
flat.
times already. It was a little bit of a hodgepodge of things.
This is one that's right next to the park.
Yeah,
As I recall, there was one section that they had to.
it was like a taller section with that.
Right, and it received a ad valorem tax.
Or the award-winning Spanish style home on the corner, 3rd and Ocean Breeze. Where they put the addition on and do
yeah,
the
I mean, you
all
just
that.
have to be able to tell if it's
What-
different between the old and new. And this is what we've given them. You all are here to say,
cool.
is that enough? Is this enough? Is, what is enough? What are your recommendations to them that, because they want to hear what you have to say, because they'd like to bring this back for a scope of work approval and for you all to be comfortable with that scope of work approval to recommend it. So they're looking for your feedback
All
on
right, so
this. Yeah.
you have a roof differential, and is that adequate?
I could also change the stucco style if that will suffice. I have no problem with that. That's very easy. And again, I've gone ahead and accidentally got a full signed and sealed package for this design. But again, I don't mind having to go and redesign it. I just want to move forward with it. It's been since September. I've had my applications in, and it's with everything going on, I just kind of got lost in the mix of things, I guess. But yeah, whatever y'all think, and would like, if you need more differentiation, that's fine. And but if not, and
I understand where William is coming from. I fully understand that it's part of the Secretary of the Interior standards. I would be perfectly content with a different stucco finish and perhaps a darker color or lighter color or something.
So there's slight variation.
To require anything more would be
Obnoxious, rude.
would not be consistent with our decision at 1020.
Right.
In other words, when I saw on there that they specifically mentioned they don't want the brick sills under the windows. And I'm thinking that, you know, when I look at it, I go, yeah, I think the brick sills would look okay. Going around.
Okay.
And you could still use brick sills to make the addition look like a historic structure, but then differentiate in a different way, like a stucco, roof line, something like that, to show that it was added on, but they're still trying to keep with the same architectural elements of the original structure. Would that be acceptable?
Well, you all tell us. You
it's all right
know,
with me, 100%.
I mean, this
Does that
is,
sound good?
yeah.
I just think, yeah, if there's different cues that point toward it being different, like I don't think that has to be a neon sign flashing saying, because it's
Just makes a suggestion.
So on here on the proposed elevations, they've shown a reveal line where where the stucco joint will be. Will just indicate that there's a change, and then you could do a different stucco texture on the addition. And then I think William brought up comments that he made about the modification using the joist above the garage, and I think that might prove a more fluid transition and honor kind of that original lower, flatter roof of the garage, you know, because they're doing the hip roof out 3/4 of the garage and then they can't modify. So I think going back to what William was saying, that I think that would provide a better transition there.
Is that gonna make the one end of the house match the other in the same way William was describing it?
So if you look, the houses will not completely match, because if you look here, the house can't be expanded up right there on that garage because it's extending, it's creating a non-conformity. So with what William was saying is that garage, you see the roof line goes out 3/4 of the garage.
Right, but you see how the garage is dropped down, and he was suggesting that the left-hand side of the house, as I said, there would be dropped down.
Not to that degree, he was checking about. William, can you talk about your joist suggestion? It would
Well,
kind of.
let's stay with the garage for a minute. The garage is having about 2 feet added to a portion of its walls to have an ability to have a hip roof be in the same plane and the same height as the existing roof. My suggestion to them was take the roof off the existing garage, put a rake beam on the right-hand side against the alley, and to do standard trusses with the same slope as the hip roof, and have that hip roof go into a valley and just run into the hip end of the roof. So the garage end would have a gable end or a Flemish gable end. And we would also remove that nonconformity where the eave sits into the alley. Correspondingly, I was asking them to drop the addition on the left-hand side 6 to 12 inches. The way their courses are done with their block, they can drop it by 1.5 courses. And it would be very similar to the height of the garage, but it would be taller. But their roof would still tuck under the existing roof. But if you all feel comfortable with the existing mass of the house extending in exactly the same plane and exactly the same pitch out over the addition, which is exactly the same width as the historic house, the only differentiation would be a change in stucco. That's under your purview. Staff couldn't approve something like that, but you could.
We have in the past, instead of the plane carrying on across the stucco, we have in the past required them to offset it just 6 inches or something like that.
They didn't want to do that, so that was the result was the roof. That was the roof recommendation. And most of the times we ask them to set the addition back about 6 inches.
Mhm.
And that was not because of the floor plan. They didn't want to do that because it's in the same flush plane. So usually that's how we get the distinguish between the old and the new is we do a little setback.
Mhm.
And so it's still the same architectural style. It's still complementary, but you can tell, oh, there was something stuck on here at some point.
So
So
why could they not do the 6-inch setback?
they did not want to because of the
Well,
floor
if,
plan.
if you get in, if you're looking at the floor plan, the bedrooms that are being proposed are not overly large to begin with. And reducing that depth by 6 inches or more is going to make at least one of those bedrooms rather small. So because they wanted, and I was also, since they've already done all their construction documents, I was trying to come up with a creative way to save them some costs whereby they would only have to modify their construction package a little bit by dropping that roof line versus having to redraw the whole floor plan, because taking 6 inches out, that's going to change their structural system, their roofing system, and their the floor plan itself. So I was
So
trying
you
to
would just drop the eve line by 6 inches?
6 to 12 inches. It depends on how we can work out a step down from the living room into the addition, but it'll result in the roof of the addition tucking right underneath the existing one, or at least the eave will start underneath the existing one, and it will not, and the ridge line of the roof will not be the same as the existing house. It'll be about 6 inches or anywhere from 3 to 6 inches below that.
That's
But
why
in order
we,
to do that, you have to drop the floor slab of the new section? You can't.
Well, he
have-
doesn't have an overly high ceiling to begin with on the house built. So I wanted to try to keep him at least 8 foot or 8'4" ceiling. So the thought was to just drop the slab. The existing house has got a crawl space, so the slab could be have an elevation of whatever they chose to be. So just dropping it by the 6 to 8 inches would not be overly difficult.
Or you could create a sort of an attic sloped roof in the bedrooms for the outer 2 feet.
You could.
To keep the.
Well, we're also,
They are planning to place the mechanicals in the attic of the addition. So that does cut down on how much space you could grab out of the roof to add height to the rooms that are there. And I'm sorry, this is all getting very technical. It's difficult to have this conversation, even if we were all live. And virtually it's even worse, but I apologize about that.
No, that's fine. All righty. Have we exhausted the thinking on that?
yeah, well, so I think that he's kind of looking for a consensus from you all that that either the staff direction is what you would like him to go with, or an alternate kind of direction, you know, for the differentiation. So like I said, I mean, we've tried to keep things as much of the same as his original application, but
well, can I ask, and let me direct this to William. Again, I had an issue when I saw that they wanted him to take the brick sills. And I was wondering, is there any problem there? You don't have a problem with us continuing the brick sills all the way around, right?
No, sir.
No,
not at
and
all.
that would be fine. They could, you know, do different kinds of brick. I mean, on my own house, my house is original red brick sills and lintels on the windows. When I put an addition on, I had those replicated in stucco and they're painted. So you can tell they all have brick sills, but some of them are real brick and some of them are stucco brick. And you know the difference between the addition and the original house that way. So yes, a sill element would be perfectly appropriate in the addition.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, and then what do you all think about about extending the roof line at the same length?
I'd be fine with that.
Okay, yeah. Are
So-
you getting the height in the living area that you were wanting to get?
We're just going with a little more of a vaulted ceiling in there to open up the, you know, it's such a small living kitchen area. We're just trying to give it a little more structure.
so are you comfortable with, so you're comfortable with the addition having the same plane and the same height? What about the roof? Or do you like William's suggestion for the, the garage?
Right, what they're talking about, they're just bringing it down
William's suggestion on the garage.
Yeah.
I think Williams, yeah.
That works.
It's gonna be a big improvement, but it allows him the headroom that he needs to be able to step down the garage.
Mhm. And so they had also mentioned in addition as retaining the original clamshell shutters, as part, restoring them and bringing those back as part of the scope of work as well, for the, to distinguish between the old and the new.
Okay, there's no, do we have any images of some of the clamshells that are on it?
Yeah, there's some pictures if you can pull them up.
We still make them, so you can still get those for the new edition.
They don't qualify, they can be restored because they're aluminum, they don't go bad, and then they just need to be repainted, but they don't qualify as hurricane protection.
Correct.
So, but they're as a decorative component they're very typical for that masonry vernacular style of the time. That was a very standard component. And
Is a proposal to extend those around?
no, it's just to retain them on the historic component.
I'm happy to put them throughout the house if that will, if
If
that
you can do it, that would be wonderful.
That's a matter of your preference.
Well, if you can work with me and I can keep the the eastern part of the house as is, and then I'll modify the garage roof, and I'll keep the sills and clamshells on everything, and I'll change the stucco on the addition. Do you think that would be enough?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
You're talking to us.
I think you hit the nail on the head. You're good.
You guys are awesome. That's not a problem.
Looking forward to seeing it.
And if I could say one more thing too, regarding the ad valorem, I've done a few historical rehabs. I'm a general contractor. I work for my father, who's also a GC. He's not online right now, but man, we really take pride in what we do, and we really love the ad valorem. It's such a great way to get people like us in and rehab some of these old, beautiful houses that have just fallen in disrepair. And and it's just really such a great thing, and I can't express that more to y'all. And I hope that you approve my application on that as well. But thank you.
On that issue, I have a question for William. I know City Commission had a discussion on 1020 and whether the ad valorem benefit qualifies for the entire structure or just for the part, the
Just for
original.
what's being done to it.
Yeah, it's only for the improvement of value that's based on the renovation, such as like an addition. It's only the value of the addition that gets the exemption, not the whole house. The land is not exempted. The land still floats with whatever it is. The existing structure's value still floats with whatever it might be, whether it's homestead exempted or it's under a regular ad valorem. It's just the improved value of the structure based on the renovation. And when it comes back on the tax roll, it's reevaluated at the value of that date, not what it was when it went off the roll. So we do caution people. Mr. Feldkamp is quite familiar with the first ad valorem property tax freeze in West Palm Beach. We wrote the ordinance there. The project was started in 2003, 2004. It came on the tax roll in 2006 at the height of the market. And that family, it was a 4,500 square foot addition. The taxes went up by about $20,000 a year when that thing came back on the tax roll. And it did sort of, and I've got to answer the door, but it does have an impact when it comes back on the roll 10 years later.
Yeah, but again, from an investor or a rehab person that comes through, what a great thing to get us in these neighborhoods. I mean, I just finished this great place in the Northwood Hills, which is an up and coming neighborhood. I live in College Park, by the way. I'm a local, but man, again, what a great thing it is to get some of these projects where people maybe wouldn't look at. It will get them looking at them and put a bunch of money into it and rehab these places.
We appreciate your investment in the community too.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all. Yeah, I love the community.
All right. Does that now finish item B of new business conceptual review?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's go on planning issues and planning issues.
If you can just please respond to your emails, we're scheduling a joint historic preservation board, planning and zoning board meeting. Most likely because of the timing, it'll probably be the February meeting. So just please make sure that you RSVP with your availability, most likely for the February date. Okay.
And that would be the third Wednesday of the month.
So this is tied in with the downtown visioning that Treasure Coast was hired for. So this will Treasure Coast will make a presentation and get feedback from the board in the downtown area, including the areas on L&M Street.
What date did you say that was?
It's in the email. It's the third Wednesday of February.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
On the other planning issue, we do anticipate an entitlement application for the Gulfstream Hotel sometime in the next 10 days or so. They're getting very close to having their application package finished. Once staff has determined that it's been completed, we'll apprise you of what type of schedule it will be on to go before you and the City Commission.
Wonderful. Okay, we look forward to that. Public comments? No public comments? Okay. Now, unfortunately, folks, I would like to make a 4-minute presentation request. So we get out of here.
I thought it was 3 minutes, Bob.
3. Here's the issue. Those of us who followed the January 4th City Commission meeting heard a lot of discussion about the condition of the houses in the L&M district. And we know that the owners have made some improvements to the properties, but they are seriously not livable. And if you again saw the commission meeting, commissioners were actually hoping that the owners would make the properties livable, habitable again. And to that issue, what you all have, and Ms. Fox, I apologize if we don't have it for you, I guess. In our historic preservation ordinance, this item 2 on the page that you have, notice of violation hearing, if I can read it. If the Hrpb determines that a designated landmark or contributing property within an historic district is in the course of deteriorating through neglect, it, that is us, shall direct staff to so notify the owner of record immediately to cease any actions which contribute to such deterioration through neglect, and shall give the owner 30 days to commence repairs sufficient to rectify the problems identified. Such notice shall be by certified mail, return receipt to the addressee of the owner. This is actually a power that we have that we have not really used, but should and can for all sorts of projects, even something like the Gulfstream Hotel that certainly should not be permitted to deteriorate to the point of being out of compliance. I would suggest that we, if we're reasonably, that we direct staff to send this letter to the owners of the historic contributing properties on L&M Street. Certainly 17 M Street, beautifully maintained and occupied. Who are the owners? CRA. CRA is the owners right now.
And the city. No, just
CRA.
Just the CRA. One of the issues that I walked around there over the past few days and took photos. There is a lot of deterioration still there. And there is an incredible amount of insect infestation. Terminals.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
sorry, this is Elizabeth Lenahan. I appreciate you letting me cut in. Staff has received some information on this and is evaluating the status of the property and if you all want to take a consensus, whether you want to hear more information, staff can put information together and bring it to you at your next meeting, or to bring this as an actual item with documentation. I think that might be the most helpful to the board if you want to discuss it.
What are you talking about bringing to us?
I believe she's talking about the item as demolition for neglect, is because if you're going to make a vote on it and review it, is for us to pull the information that we have, because I think what Elizabeth's talking about is at the January 4th meeting, the city commission has asked for additional information about the condition of the buildings.
Yes.
And I know staff and the CRA are going to be working on putting that information together.
Oh.
And then, so when that information is collected, we can bring that to you as well as to the city commission. But the city commission has directed staff and asked the CRA to put this information together to make some choices about what to do with those properties and how to stem the deterioration.
Yeah. So in that vein, as staff brings that information to you, it may be in your best interest, and part of what you would want to do is to wait to see the city commission's reaction to that information first before you take action.
Which meeting will this be? Which city commission meeting?
I know that they're collecting information. We don't know yet, but they have asked for that information. William, do you know, have you heard?
Well, there's a meeting on Friday among a whole variety of people to discuss the condition of the properties, how to move forward, the various options of what stands in front of us, because it's a very complicated acquisition history that does limit in some ways what the city can and cannot do. Some of the properties were paid for by penny sales tax money for parking. Having an historic building on there doesn't really lend itself for parking. So I think there's probably at least seven different avenues of ramifications depending on what type of decision is being made in which order. There's also a joint meeting with the City Commission and the CRA that I believe is scheduled for either the last Monday of February or the last Wednesday of February, whereby I know this issue is going to come up. And staff has been asked to pull together quite a bit of cost estimate and documentation as to address the commission's concern as to what would it take to allow people to live back in those buildings again until such time as whatever the future is decided for the L&M project. And so staff is trying to pull some of that information together. I don't think it's going to be a very small bill, but you never know. We do have a structural report that was done on each building to assess what type of threat it would be to the building to have them moved, which was part of the approval that was done for the potential site plan for L&M, that if a site plan were approved eventually in the future, that the buildings could be relocated in a historic district somewhere else, or otherwise they might be demolished if the site plan was approved. We haven't gotten a site plan. There's not a site plan moving forward right now. We've had some interest in moving or relocating a couple of the buildings. Both of them proved to be rather interesting and odd proposals. And neither one of them, I believe, is moving forward. Both would have rendered the historic buildings non-contributing in the way that the approach was being taken, even though they were going to be placed in a historic district. So we as staff couldn't very well support the relocation of an historic building into an historic district and then make it not historic anymore. As an example, one of the buildings was being proposed to be jacked up an entire story and have parking underneath it, and to add on it significantly in the front. So I'm like, well, if you're trying to save a building, it should look something like what it did when it left where it was. So we're hoping to have all that information together sometime early in February to give to the commission as they requested. We can give you an update at the next meeting or even send an email in the interim as to when the final date of the joint meeting between the commission and the CRA board will be. And, any other dates that come up out of this that are appropriate.
I would certainly like to have some notification of these meetings. If you could direct staff to give us all emails of when these meetings are.
We can do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Can I ask, okay, I think you touched on it too, William, that this board, if I'm not mistaken, we authorized demolition on the ones that didn't, that nobody spoke up for, but that was only pending a site plan.
Well, there was a case that was brought before the board, and I believe it's almost 2 years ago at this point, where a conceptual site plan was shown. It was developed by an outside consultant. The board discussed what the options would be. And from what I recall, the decision was made that once per our ordinance, a building cannot be torn down in historic district or contributing one until such time as an approved site plan is or something is shown in the place of it. So the board in their vote, which was also challenged, and the challenge was thrown out eventually, was that once a site plan comes in and is approved by the board, it would constitute an ability for either the contributing properties to be moved or be demolished. And I think the board also encouraged the CRA and staff to work toward avenues for those buildings to be relocated in the interim, which we have been doing. But as I mentioned, there's only been interest for 3 buildings. One of them was the garage of 17 South M, which at the time, the city wanted to maintain ownership of that building and its accessory structure. Whether that's the case now or not, I could not tell you. And the other 2 buildings, as I mentioned, both were proposed to be located in a historic district, but would be so rehabbed and altered, they would no longer be contributing. And that sort of defeated the purpose in the first place. So now we are starting with this master plan visioning for downtown, which includes the L&M and the properties on K Street. And the commission will be presented all the different options of what can and cannot happen and the ramifications of what decision they will make. And then they will hopefully direct staff to do, both the staff and the CRA, to do one thing or another.
All right. Are there any other comments? Anything else?
Well, Aaron didn't mention it, but we do have a full staff in the planning and zoning section of the division, and we do have a hopeful interview to replace Abraham's position. We have been very successful with our outside consultant, keeping abreast of certificate of appropriateness and building permit applications in the historic preservation division or office. But we are still struggling and trying very hard to fill both Jordan and Abraham's positions. But we have our fingers crossed that we may have found somebody. We haven't interviewed them yet, but hopefully it will go well to replace at least Abraham's position.
Excellent, thank you. And aside to Elizabeth Linehan, are you there?
I am here.
All right, I need to call you first thing in the morning. So
Okay.
Okay. All right. Last chance, fair warning.
Thank you, everybody, and try to be safe. I tried and I failed.
Thank you.